Hey, how's it going, runner? Coach Kyle here, and today you're going to learn about some of the best tips and mistakes to avoid when it comes to running on the treadmill. And if you're in a warm environment, you might want to jump on the treadmill like many of my runners in Texas or California. The treadmill is a great tool to use in the summer when it's super hot outside. Or like myself in the winter, it's a nice tool to have access to for many runners in the colder months when it's super cold out or it's kind of risky with that ice out there to run on the pavement. So the treadmill can be a really great tool to use when used appropriately. And today you're going to learn about some common myths and mistakes that many runners make when it comes to treadmill running, and more importantly, how to avoid those mistakes. If you don't know, I'm Coach Kyle, and I work primarily with plant-based distance runners all over the world, working on your running, your nutrition, your strength work, bringing it all together with great accountability and motivation, and sprinkling on some gratitude practice and some yoga, meditation along the way. If that sounds like your jam, visit kylecrans.com to learn more about my coaching. But let's get into these 5 common mistakes that I see many runners making when it comes to treadmill running. So I'm gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the 5th one I'm gonna talk about is thinking that your treadmill should be at a 1% incline to mimic outdoor speed or perceived exertion. Number 4 is related to that perceived exertion, and it's thinking that it's accurate, that how you think it feels is how it actually is. And I'll talk about treadmill calibration and what affects your level of perceived exertion and how that all kind of comes into play on the treadmill. Number 3 is jumping too quickly from road running onto the treadmill at the gym when it suddenly gets cold or hot out, or on the flip side, when it gets nicer out, jumping too quickly, canceling the gym membership and just going cold turkey outdoors for all of your running can be a risky behavior. Number 2 is thinking that you need an expensive treadmill, and I'm going to tell you why that's not the case and why I don't think that an expensive treadmill is typically the way to go. And number 1 is thinking that treadmill running is lower impact, it's safer for your joints or whatever. Treadmill running can be better for your legs, but it can also, if not used appropriately, it can increase your risk of some injuries. So I'll tell you kind of how to manage that in just a second. But let's jump in with number 5, and it was thinking that you need an incline, a slight slope on your treadmill to mimic the outdoor speed or rating of perceived exertion. There are a number of reasons why treadmill running is a little different than outdoor or ground running, and the belt is moving for you. It's not, you're not moving over the ground, you're just following a belt. And so that is a little different, obviously, than treadmill running. On the treadmill, it can be totally flat. You're not rushing against, you're not fighting that wind resistance. And so the theory goes is that putting it at a slight, just 1% incline changes it enough that the speed on the treadmill, that incline kind of accounts for the lack of slope or the lack of air resistance. And it's true, but the research has found that it's only true if you're running fast enough. And one study in particular found that you have to be running at about a 7-minute pace or faster for that to be true. If you're running at an 8, 9, or 10-minute pace, you're just not moving fast enough for that air, that wind resistance to matter. So number 4 is kind of related to that pace, that speed, that perceived exertion, and it's trusting all these numbers. And when it comes to the speed on the treadmill display, who knows if that treadmill has ever been calibrated? If you're going to the gym and this treadmill is 7 years old, it might not have been calibrated since it arrived at the gym. And so that alone will totally throw off the accuracy of the speed on the treadmill. Also, the level of perceived exertion is something that needs to be talked about. And this is how hard or easy it just feels to run at a certain speed or heart rate. And there are tons of things that come into play to affect how hard running feels. For instance, if you're running outdoors at night, it will often feel like your level of perceived exertion is off. You don't feel like you're running quite as fast, and that's because if it's dark outside, like on a trail, you don't have things constantly moving by you. And the same is true on the treadmill. You're stationary. Things aren't moving past you, so that affects your level of perceived exertion. Also, heat, like inside a gym, it could be kind of warm, especially if it's a little more comfortable outside. So heat plays a part in how hard a pace feels. Also, having people around you lowers your perceived exertion. So if you're running alone in a gym, or you're running out on the trail all by yourself, or if you're at the gym and there are people around you, or you're doing a track workout and there are other people running the workout with you, you're gonna run faster and it's gonna feel easier with people around you. That's part of the reason why we can race faster than we can run in training. Research shows pretty clearly that having people around you while running mentally lets you accept and handle higher levels of discomfort. It makes it easier. So that's all going to affect how fast you run, how easy it feels. And like I said, who knows if the speed is even accurate on the treadmill. So what do you do? Well, heart rate can be helpful. Your heart rate is what it is. And it's 150 beats per minute if you're outdoors or you're inside. So that can be a nice way to kind of gauge if you're running at the appropriate speed. Also, if you can, always using the same treadmill can be kind of helpful. That way you're not kind of bouncing around different calibrated treadmills. One thing I tell my runners is if you're going to spend the next 3 months doing a lot of treadmill running, one thing we can do is do a time trial, 1 mile time trial on one particular treadmill at the gym, for example, and you use that one as much as possible. And that way we can test our time trial. We can use that machine for our fitness benchmark to extrapolate workout paces. We're not just guessing that the machine is moderately close. Something else you can do is many watches like my Coros Pace 2 will work with power, and it will estimate your speed on the treadmill. And that's something too, is you can just go off your estimated, it's not going to be true, your estimated speed from your GPS watch. So there are workarounds, but they're all a little inaccurate, and it doesn't really matter. It's just important to keep that in mind. So number 3 is that quick changes are always risky for the body. And when it gets cold out, you might be tempted to just jump right onto the treadmill and stick with that. Or when it starts to get warm out, you might be tempted to ditch the treadmill and start just going outdoors in the spring when the ice goes away. But just be aware that quick changes in your training habits are always a little risky. And so if you take just a week to sprinkle in some treadmill runs or sprinkle in some new outdoor runs, will be the smartest thing to do. Don't go straight into 100% treadmill running to an 18-mile outdoor paved run. Just be mindful of that switch, that transition, and make some sort of small transition instead of going 100% outdoors to 100% on the treadmill. Number 2 is thinking that you need to spend a bunch of money on a treadmill. And at its core, a treadmill is just a belt that moves in circles. And you can spend a ton of money. You can spend $10,000 on a Woodway. They're amazing, but is it really that much better than a $400 used treadmill? I don't think so. I got mine for free because some lady just wanted it out of her garage. And that's a heck of a deal if you ask me. And so what I usually recommend is just check out the Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. Somebody's selling a treadmill that they haven't used, and especially a couple months into the year, maybe some people bought them for New Year's and they realized that they're just not using it. You can probably get a pretty good deal on a pretty decent treadmill. You don't need to spend a lot of money on them. And the number one biggest mistake I see many runners making is they just automatically think that running on the treadmill is better for their body. And it's tricky. So this is the most important one, is that running on the treadmill, it moves, the treadmill flexes. I hesitate to say that's better for your body. Research shows that on a softer surface, in a softer pair of shoes, your brain can sense this and you actually hit the ground harder on a softer surface. So your brain kind of equals out the amount of loading, the amount of ground impact forces. That being said, there's also something to consider, which is called repetitive stress. One thing to seriously avoid with treadmill running is running at the same speed with the same slope all the time. That means that you're always hitting the ground, your running form is the same, and that's a high level of repetitive stress. You're stressing the same joints, the same muscles, the same tendons in the same way every step. Variation is really helpful. It's part of the reason why I recommend running in a variety of shoes throughout a week, is that every pair of shoes is slightly different, and it slightly changes your muscle activation, your running form. And I think that's good for lowering your injury risk just a little bit. And the same is true for the treadmill. And so what I really tell my runners to do, what I encourage my runners to do, is every 5 minutes, whenever the song changes or the TV at the gym goes to commercial, change the slope, change the speed of the treadmill just a little bit. So if you're doing a long run, bless your soul, you're doing an 18-mile training run on the treadmill, every 5 minutes, change the slope a little bit, go up a little bit, then go down a little bit, add a couple, add a little bit of miles per hour, take away a few miles per hour, change it up just a little bit every few minutes, every commercial break, to increase the variability of what you're running on and change up the speed. So that way you're reducing the repetitive stress on your legs, and also that kind of gives you something to do while running on the treadmill. It can be kind of boring at times. So audio books, doing like a 1 minute stride every 5 minutes just can be something to do. And any way that we can pass the time with Netflix or something like that is going to help you get those runs done. And if you need any other further assistance getting those runs done, I hear all the time that from my clients that having my accountability, that having me motivate them is a really big help. It helps you get things done over those harder months when it's not so warm outside, when it's too warm outside. Doing things that make you better is my job. I'm a facilitator of ideas. I provide motivation and accountability. And if that's something you think you need, visit my website, kylecrans.com. Let's chat about working together and how we can work together to help you do those things that make you a better runner, a better person.